The euro just tested a significant area here this week that we talked about earlier in the week. However, are bulls done yet as we head into non-farm payroll on Friday? I'll have all the details in today's video. We'll also take a look at the DXY and talk about the latest there as the market defends 97.7 support. All right, guys, so the EURUSD daily time frame here, we've talked about this trend line off of that February low several times on this channel. And the key for this trend line here is really what's happened over the past few months. You can see that we didn't get touches down here off of these lows, but all these lows here for the past few months have built up this trend line to the point where we did get a breakdown here recently. So this could be significant for the EURUSD, especially in the context of the weekly time frame. So if we head out here to the weekly, you can see where we do have an ascending channel off of these lows from down here in 2022. We've got this low over here, we've got this one, and now two touches here in 2025. So this could be significant for the euro. The question is, though, is this consolidation that we've seen here for the past few months going to lead to further upside for this market, or will we finally get that push lower? Now, looking at the daily time frame, what we talked about earlier this week, including the weekly forecast, were these two single prints. So at the beginning of the week, what we talked about here was the fact that 1.1645 was support for the euro. You can see where that was the low here for the EURUSD. And also, by the way, I did announce this in the VIP group up here in this area. So in Discord, I told members to keep an eye on this here because this was a 5-week POC composite. So if you guys want to join us in Discord, check out the link in the description of this video for 85% off lifetime access. So that right there, guys, obviously was a perfect retest there from the euro right off of that level. And then we got the bounce. Now, the key for the euro, though, was this area up here. Not only did we have this consolidation back here, but then we also have these two levels that we talked about at the beginning of this week. So these are what are called single prints. And in TPO terms, what this means, and by the way, TPO is time price opportunity. This is an indicator. There are several platforms out there, indicators out there that'll show you time price opportunity. I use the one on TradingView that is available on the premium plan or higher. Now, looking at TPO, what we had here was this consolidation over here. So we had two areas of consolidation. And for purposes of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the blocks here because we don't technically need those to talk about these single prints. So what we had here was this area right back here. So consolidation from the euro, we had the breakdown. This was the expansion point out of that area. And you can see we do have that imbalance up here. So single prints are imbalances in the market. It's an imbalance between buying and selling pressure. And this is significant because these areas often serve as magnets for a market. So you can see two imbalances here, one up here at 1.178. We had the other one down there at 1.1722. So obviously we saw the market come into this area here earlier this week. And now this area up here was tested here on Wednesday. However, the key point here though, and really the question mark at the moment is, was this taken out? Is this enough right here? Because what you can see is that today's high on Wednesday fell just short of that level. So this level could be just above that high up there around 1.178. Now, the thing to keep in mind though is, like any indicator, this is a reference point. This is not to say that the exact level that the market has to test is up here, okay? It's really this general area up here. So then the question is, was this enough to satisfy that retest? And personally, I'm not convinced that it was. And the reason for that is, really twofold. First of all, we have NFP coming up on Friday, right? So we know that oftentimes that does produce a lot of volatility in these markets. And so that's something to be aware of because we could easily get the euro just consolidating here for the next couple of days and then moving up here and taking out this high during NFP, maybe even a little bit higher, and then potentially rotating lower from there. Now, furthermore, the other factor here is going to be what's happening with the DXY. Now, at the moment, the market is technically holding above 97.7. So this is what we talked about earlier in the week. If you go back and watch those videos, including I even put out some YouTube shorts on this, talking about this level down here at 97.5. In fact, one of those shorts I even said, could the DXY wick to 97.5 this week? And that was back here. I talked about that back here in this area. Not saying that to brag, but this has played out, so far perfectly here on Wednesday. So we did get the DXY down here into this area. And the reason for that is, once again, if you move in here to the 30-minute time frame, this is kind of the industry standard for TPO. And you look here at turn on TPO here, you can see where we did have two areas down here, two imbalances to keep an eye on for the US dollar index. So the first one was up there at 97.5. Okay, so this one right back here, again, you had consolidation down here. This was that expansion point. And then you had this area down here as well. Now, this was more of a minor one, simply because this occurred within the congestion down here, not necessarily an expansion point. However, we do still have 97.27 down here. But the one that I said to watch was 97.5 this week, because this could serve as a magnet and B, support. So we saw it do just that here on Wednesday. So the market came down here, found support right here at 97.7 on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we did get that wick down here before the bounce. So if you had been paying attention to this, and let's say you're a scalper, this would have been ideal here for the DXY, and really the same thing here for the EURUSD. Okay, now again, though, the big question is this enough? Is this it for the euro, or do we have higher to go? And like I said, with NFP coming up, I think you've got to be really careful just assuming that that is going to be the top, because we often see highs like this get taken out on events like NFP. Now, another key consideration for the EURUSD is really, if we flip back to the DXY, clean this up, let's go to the daily time frame. Really, this is going to come down to where this market closes. And keep in mind too, I've had a lot of comments recently talking about, well, why would you even discuss the bullish potential of the US dollar? Because it has been in a downtrend all year, right? And that's clear. I mean, 2025 has been a brutal year for the US dollar, with the market trending lower. However, recently, what you can kind of see is that the market is trying to put in a bottom down here. You can see the velocity of this move, even just the angle of attack back here, is very different from what we've seen over the past few months. Like if you were to draw this out and just draw levels or a line from highs to lows back here, you would have something very steep like this. If you then do the same thing over here, right, you can see where essentially the level or the angle of attack is getting less and less through this area, right? So the market is trying to put in a bottom down here. The question is, can it do that? And the jury is out on that so far. But the reason why I keep mentioning the potential for a bounce, a macro bottom even here for the US dollar, is the fact that the market is coming off of this 2011 channel support. So we've talked about this a lot, but as long as the market is above here, there is that potential for the market to put in a larger bottom down here before rallying. Now, again, the jury is out on whether or not we get follow through. But I think the bottom line is that looking at this support level down here on the monthly time frame, when you drill down to a daily time frame, this back here is your level. So this was our level back here during FOMC, and you can see support back here as well. So this back here is where I was saying that, you really had to be cautiously bullish on the US dollar going into FOMC just because of where it was sitting. And sure enough, we got the bounce. Now, in the short term, though, what this is going to come down to today, right, in terms of whether or not this bounce is it, right? If this is enough to propel the US dollar higher, is going to come down to where today closes. Because really, you need to see this market hold on to 97.7, because this is our weekly level that has been respected on a weekly closing basis. Now, we could technically see the DXY drop below here later this week into NFP, sweep this low, and then potentially get a bounce. But what's going to be key is where this market closes on Friday, because we did get the weekly close above this level last week. So all things to watch. There's a lot going on here, guys. Obviously, the market has been very sideways. But really, I think over the short term, what this is going to come down to is whether or not the DXY can hold on to 97.7 on a daily closing basis. If it does, then this remains your range. Okay, 97.7 toward 98.6. And if we do get the sustained break below here, even on a daily closing basis, then we're looking at a move potentially down there toward 97.27. Now, one other factor for the euro and the DXY, and this is kind of more indirect, but looking at the pound, we talked about this on Tuesday, and this could be significant here for GBPUSD as well as the euro, because we know the two tend to move together, right? And so when you look at the pound here, we have the market moving higher. Now, in Tuesday's video, what I talked about there, looking at the 4-hour time frame, is I said here that we had, first of all, this unfinished auction right back here. This tends to be a magnet for markets. Markets love to retest these areas, even take them out. You can see right here on Wednesday, right off that level. But what I said in Tuesday's video was that this area right here, I said I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the market break out from here and head higher toward this area. And the reason for that is because you have these poor highs, these unfinished auctions back here, and then also those two single prints off of this push lower, okay? So you've got a lot of reasons for the pound to potentially rally here over the next few days, despite the fact that it is pulling back aggressively over the past few hours. But you do have this pocket up here for the pound that if you look at the daily time frame, this was never retested, right? It was never retested following this failed breakout. So looking at this range, you've got these highs right back here, and you had the market close above. This was FOMC. You had the market close right back below. Now, the interesting part about this is, again, you have these imbalances up here during that expansion, and you never saw the market come up here and retest this. So the big question is, will we get the pound up here before we see sellers step in? And if we're going to get that, then the euro has probably not topped out just yet. Okay, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Even though this video is not about the pound, again, we know the two tend to move together. And with the pound looking at this, breakout here potentially on Wednesday, and then this area up here around 1.357 or so, then the question is, if this draws the market higher, then the euro is probably also going to move a little bit higher here. So bottom line, guys, I think as long as the DXY is looking a little bit weak here, like I talked about on Tuesday, and potentially now, closing, you can see kind of slipping here during this video. If it does close below 97.7, that could give the catalyst down here toward this low, take out that single print, and potentially even retest the bottom of that channel, okay? Now, if we get that, of course, you're looking at the euro and the pound higher. But with that said, though, I'd be really careful trying to buy this market right now, just because if this is your new range, you're looking at the market trading right in the middle. So if you miss this down here, it's like I said on the pound yesterday on Tuesday, right? If you were trying to buy these markets, this was the point to do it. This Friday reclaim right here of 1.338, this was the area to do it, not up here. Okay, you've got to be careful up here because we are getting into some resistance. The same thing with the euro, okay? But if the DXY loses 97.7 on a daily closing basis, I think the euro could head a little bit higher here, take out this high, fully retest or sweep that single print up there, and then potentially give us a full retest of that February trend line. Okay, but regardless, just keep in mind NFP on Friday, guys, so be really careful out there as we head into the week close. Hope this video helped. If it did, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. Also join us in VIP. Claim your 85% off lifetime access in the description of this video. Trade well out there, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.